President Trump is getting the silent treatment.
I've never walked into a room so silent before.
The nation's top military brass stood at attention. No applause, no cheers, in fact, no reaction whatsoever.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Attention!
It's so quiet.
This photo is going viral on social media, and this is of our military generals and admirals listening to Trump ramble on for hours. But it's the reaction of this one here that has this photo going viral.
So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da, 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 pop, pop, pop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on it.
Make no mistake, the reaction by 99% of our generals and admirals today was a form of protest.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane.
All right, generals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Please take your seats. We've heard from me, so now Donald J. Trump.
I would have wanted to get over the meeting between the generals and the Secretary of War or Defense and DJT. But ladies and gentlemen, I cannot do that before I bring you the Americans appreciating the military for defying all odds and disrespecting these people and not giving them what they wanted by being silent and not applauding. To Americans, they're like, this is a sign we ain't alone. These people understand that we are hostages and they are not going to give it to them. They are not about to be loyal to fascists. It is about to get good. But welcome back to the channel. My name is Gracie. I do appreciate all of you that support me on here. My members, big shout out to you guys. You do me good. I want us to look at some of the reactions of the Americans, and I think so many other people really that are saying this was a silent, protest from the military that actually, much as he wants to get rid of protocol and order and professionalism, they are not caving in. They are going to stay professional. And they understood business, stood on business, and American people are here to applaud them and say, thank you. Why don't we watch all of this? We'll come back and talk about it. Do me a favor, like the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share, and let me know what you think. Did you watch it? What did you think?
President Trump is getting the silent treatment.
I've never walked into a room so silent before.
The nation's top military brass stood at attention. No applause, no cheers, in fact, no reaction whatsoever.
This is very... Oh, don't laugh, you're not allowed to do that. You know what, just have a good time.
As the 800 generals and admirals listened to the commander-in-chief, they sat bolt upright, hands on their laps. Even when he cracked jokes, you could hear a pin drop.
I'm very careful, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs, I walk very slowly. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da, 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 pop, pop, pop.
Protocol dictates that you're quiet. You don't say a word. You listen. That's taught at day one as soon as they get into the military, and it's throughout their whole career.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth also addressed the brass, and his speech is drawing fire today for targeting overweight recruits.
Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
The generals and admirals traveled from every corner of the globe to attend the historic gathering, and the cost, $6 million, is sparking outrage. Could have been an email as the headline on the liberal Huffington Post.
I think it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. And do they know the government might be shutting down tonight and we are paying money to make it a mandatory meeting to hear from Pete Hegseth?
Some found the staging reminiscent of the opening scene from the movie Patton, where the legendary general speaks in front of a giant American flag.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser.
Thank you.
President Trump did get some satisfaction. When he wrapped up his hour-long speech, some of the generals and admirals broke protocol with polite applause.
I'm not MAGA, please don't scroll. I have a moral compass and a soul. I want to play something for you. It's a clip taken from Moms for NC on Insta. And make no mistake, the reaction by 99% of our generals and admirals today was a form of protest.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane.
All right, generals.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Please take your seats. We've heard from me. So now, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before this. America, God bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
They clapped. They all applauded for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They were all silent for Pete Hegseth. And at the end of Donald Trump's speech, I counted 4 generals that were clapping for him, out of an estimated 800 or so. And my very first thought was, those are probably 1-stars that are hoping Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth will fire some disloyal 2 to 4-star generals so that they can get an instant promotion. Because as my friends that are in the service active duty and my veteran friends would say, there's always at least one rat fuck. So I do want to put out a message of hope. This, to me, said a big resounding protest. And that if the fateful day happens where Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth do issue the ultimate of unlawful orders, as I have said on numerous times, our military will split. And that will be the beginning of the end of this fascist regime. Constitutionalists versus loyalists. And I know MAGA media saturates the market saying that every single service member, every single veteran is MAGA and proud. I contest that, and I say that's paid propaganda bit. The majority of our military personnel, be it enlisted or officers, easily 70% of them, are actual oath keepers. No fear, eyes up, stronger together, together stronger. Always.
We have the most amazing military in the world, and the leadership of our amazing military, we're all gathered together, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth were expecting rousing applause and standing ovations from our nation's generals, and they were met with silence. It was a silence of the generals. And the generals knew that what Trump was saying was wrong. We do not deploy American forces against Americans in our cities. Our military is not to be used for domestic law enforcement. It is not trained to do that. And our generals simply sat there silently. It's also illegal for Donald Trump to order U.S. troops against Americans in American cities. A federal judge has said so. We expect the appellate courts and even the Supreme Court to uphold that ruling.
Donald Trump is getting mocked by the very generals and admirals that attended today's disaster of a meeting. Now, if you missed it this morning, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth called together all the top military leaders to have a little campaign rally of sorts and try to get them on their side. They were looking for applause and admiration from the military leaders, and instead they got silence and ridicule. Now, after the meeting, many of them spoke to the press, many of the leaders, of course, anonymously, and this is what they had to say. More like a press conference than a briefing of the generals. Could have been an email. And the worst yet, not quite a loyalty test, but on the spectrum of loyalty to ideology. Total waste of money. That is the response that Donald Trump got. And instead, what he was looking for was for them to cheer for him. In fact, he even said that they could applaud if they wanted to, thinking that when he would say, hey, we're going to go into our towns and our cities, and it's going to be your responsibility, that they would say, yeah, go Donald Trump. Instead, he's getting mocked. What an embarrassment.
This right here is a picture of America's top military generals listening to Donald Trump give his rambling speech today where he insulted them, he insulted our country, he declared war on American cities. Like this man right here is the perfect representation of how this speech went. These are military leaders in the United States from different bases all over the world, Asia, Europe, of course, here in the United States and more. Just look at their faces. All of them. And that tells you exactly how this speech went today. During Donald Trump's tirade, he insulted their weight, their leadership. He said we're going to use blue cities as military training grounds and essentially declared war on American cities that he doesn't like. And multiple times throughout Donald Trump's speech, he asked for these military leaders to clap. He was essentially begging them to applaud him. He called the room silent. Now, these military officials are meant to be nonpartisan. They're not meant to clap or boo or anything like that. But remember, in Donald Trump's first term, our military actually stood in the way of his dictatorial tendencies. And so hopefully the men and women in that room do so once again.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Go! Let's hear it, Chuck!
It's so quiet. No applause. How unbelievably embarrassing for him. What a fucking loser. And you can add the orange buffoon too. Fucking losers.
These are the faces of our U.S. generals as a draft-dodging felon lectured them on how to do their jobs. And I want you to take a good look at these guys. The utter shame and disappointment they feel sitting there listening to the rambling drivel that this guy has been saying. Trump literally walked on stage and was met with complete silence and tried to actually ask for applause. I mean, I really can't emphasize the variety of reactions, holding his head and face in shame at what he is witnessing. These are the faces of our decorated military leaders, utterly ashamed at what our country is being led by.
This photo is going viral on social media, and this is of our military generals and admirals listening to Trump ramble on for hours. But it's the reaction of this one here that has this photo going viral. And it's going viral because this conveys the feeling of pretty much all Americans in this country in response to what Trump had said. No one cheered, only looks of concern. Our military is an apolitical organization, and our generals were so well trained, they really remained composed like this a majority of the time, which had to be very difficult to do considering Trump said war is now a big part of our cities and that he wants to send the military in to our cities to end the war zones he claims they are in, which if you're on the ground in any of these, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Portland, they're certainly not war zones. But these people in these photos in this room are our last line of defense against a fascist authoritarian takeover. So everyone, make your voices heard. Let them know they need to uphold their oath. Comment if you agree, let them know. Like this, share it, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Imagine cooking dinner for the 800 best chefs in the world. This was the challenge facing President Trump and Secretary of Defense Hegseth when they summoned the nation's top 800 generals and admirals to Quantico on Tuesday. They were delivering a speech to an audience whose collective expertise in leadership, motivation, and managing large institutions probably exceeds 10,000 years. Every person in that audience knows the difference between words that earn commitment and words that demand compliance. They've delivered and been moved by words that inspire people to risk their lives. There has perhaps never been an instance where so many people were so expert in the very techniques being used to move them. They know, for example, that what a leader demonstrates must match what that leader demands. The Secretary of Defense called for authenticity and rejection of performance. But the event itself was a mandatory performance. Fly across the world at enormous expense and time away from posts and be asked to applaud on cue. Did they see a disconnect? They are expert in distinguishing real threats from noise, having engaged in actual war and fought terrorists. Did they accept President Trump's claim that radical left Democrats in American cities are on par with the foes these warriors face or prepare for every day? They are experts at judging whether the game is worth the candle, whether an activity's potential rewards justify the time, effort, and cost. Did the gathering, where no decisions were made, no input requested, no problem solved, justify the trip? Or could it have been a memo? How did they weigh the priority for theater against their time, safety, and duty to the Constitution? Leadership is a transaction. You can compel attendance, but you cannot compel belief. No audience has ever been better qualified to judge if that standard was met.
Oh my God, he's bombing.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, no one in the audience is even reacting. They're not even laughing.
Well, yeah, what did they expect would happen?
All these people flying halfway across the world.
9/11 wasn't even that long ago.
Right, yeah. This should be taken more seriously.
I'm glad Shane Gillis didn't go.
Wait, what are you talking about?
All the comedians that went to perform in Saudi Arabia. What are you talking about?
I was talking about how Secretary Hegseth summoned all the U.S. generals to Virginia and then gave this really weird speech. And then Trump also gave a weird speech.
Oh, what'd they say?
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon.
There are two N words, and you can't use either of them. Can't use either of them.
Yikes. What's going on with Saudi Arabia? A ton of comedians are facing backlash for taking huge sums of money to go and perform in Saudi Arabia, where they member journalists and have cracked down on free speech. And free speech is so important.
They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad.
I think it's broken.
I think that's really illegal, personally.
There we go. But seriously, the way they treat journalists in Saudi Arabia,
Video shows ICE agents shoving journalists out of the elevator, sending one of them to the hospital.
Are you guys seeing this? It's a disaster. The U.S. Generals meeting comedians in Saudi Arabia? No, this guy's cake is falling apart in the showstopper.
So, of course, Donald Trump, being Donald Trump in Donald Trump fashion, gave an over an hour-long speech to the generals who were assembled by Pete Hegseth this week. And he started it out on typical Trump fashion, where there is a tradition in the military where when the president comes in to a meeting, they remain silent. They don't clap, they don't cheer, they don't get out of their seats. They are nonpartisan because the president changes, the military doesn't. It stays the same. I mean, yes, generals come and go, but I mean, the precedent stays the same in the military. So they've always had this long-standing tradition. When a president comes in, they do not get up, they do not cheer, they don't do any of that. They sit quietly. And this upset Donald Trump's feelings. So he immediately starts his speech out with, either you applaud for me or you can leave. And if you leave, there goes your rank, there goes your future. Forcing the military to break from tradition and become a loyalist and applaud the dictator-in-chief. You literally can't make this stuff up, guys. This administration is off the rails. Power is knowledge. Knowledge is power.
The address by Pete Hegseth, you know, the generals and the admirals, and they were all having to be seething with contempt, going, wait a second, I left my troops, I left the forward positions that I had been put in to defend America and defend American interests across the globe, to come have this guy lecture me about warrior ethos and some bizarre pep rally. And then Donald Trump came up, and as we said yesterday, again, it was like a campaign speech that you might have seen late in the campaign. That was Willie up until the very end when, as the Wall Street Journal says, Donald Trump told our military leaders that he may want to use the military against Americans.
So I have a new episode of We Told You So to go out today about the government shutdown and everything, but this has to be talked about first. That ridiculous fucking military meeting that Pete Hegseth and Trump had in front of hundreds of military brass was embarrassing. These people are seasoned combat veterans. These are people who have been serving for a long time. These are people who know the ins and outs of the military, and they were greeted to dumb bullshit like this.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O.
Again, fucking embarrassing. There's a reason why throughout that entire meeting, the generals stayed entirely silent, and Trump had to beg them to applaud, very Jeb Bush-like. Because Hegseth just went on and on about fat people in the military, and after Trump came out there to back up what Hegseth said, Gavin Newsom didn't miss a beat going on Twitter and saying, oh, guess the commander-in-chief's gotta go. So the military brass had to sit there and embarrassingly listen to a Fox News pundit try and tell them all about alpha male culture. So if that wasn't bad enough, then Trump got up there and just basically had a brain meltdown.
A submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. Can't use either of them.
And that's when he wasn't complaining about Sleepy Joe or his own landslide victory that he didn't have. To sum it up, The Atlantic put it perfectly. The commander-in-chief is not okay. Because like I said, Trump rambled on for over an hour to dead silence even after begging for them to applaud for him, which most likely left a lot of these seasoned generals leaving the auditorium thinking, what the hell is wrong with the commander-in-chief? He tried making it sound like a campaign rally full of his old grievances and bullshit, which the top military generals do not give a shit about. Because this was just supposed to be a disgusting pep talk trying to get the military on Trump's side as he uses the military against his own citizens. And it failed miserably. Because this was just a military version of that UN meeting, which led a diplomat to message somebody from the Washington Post and say, this man is stark raving mad. Do Americans not see how embarrassing this is? The sad thing is that yes, most of us do.
The United States of America is facing an emergency tonight. And no, it is not the emergency of the clock ticking to midnight without legislated funding for the American government. We've seen that clock tick to midnight before on nights like this. The emergency the United States of America is facing tonight is an emergency the United States of America has created for the world. And that emergency is that the President of the United States, in his public appearance today, proved that he is mentally incapable and emotionally incapable of fulfilling his constitutional duties as President of the United States. In other words, there is no President of the United States as we knew it. There is no functioning intelligence, no functioning judgment mechanism within the mind of the current holder of the title, President of the United States. And that person is also the holder of the nuclear codes that could destroy the planet in seconds. And he is, much to the horror of the commanding officers of the American military who listened to him today, the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world. Much of the news media made the mistake of believing that all of the American commanding generals and admirals were being summoned to Quantico, Virginia to listen to the small man of small experience who is currently the Secretary of Defense. That was obviously a fraudulent reason for demanding that all the generals and admirals fly from all over the world, leaving their command posts, to listen to a speech. It was obviously always just a setup for Donald Trump to harangue that audience with what turned out to be stream of consciousness madness, complete with hallucinations and an endless stream of pathological lies. A group of officers who earned their jobs in ways that Donald Trump never could, had to sit there and listen to a clown who stood before them in what appears to be a homemade brew of orange makeup slathered all over his face because he thinks it makes him look better. And I guess maybe we should accept Donald Trump's judgment about that one thing, that the madman orange makeup he slathers on himself makes him look better. Maybe it does. We don't know. Maybe the actual sight of the actual color of his 79-year-old skin is much worse than the orange clown confection that he chooses, but we don't know. Or maybe the orange junk on his face is yet another proof that the man has no capacity to make a judgment about anything.
Wow. Straight up silence from the generals when Pete Hegseth introduces Donald Trump at the meeting this morning. In case you need some hope and encouragement, check this out. So much silence that even Donald Trump made a statement about it when he got up to the mic, stating he's never walked into a room that was so silent, and then goes on to tell people they can leave if they don't like what he's saying, but there goes their rank and their future. That's fucking embarrassing, and it really gives you a line into what those generals and admirals have going on in their brain. Apparently, it looks like they're just as tired of his shit as we are. Have a good day, guys.
Hey, everyone. I have a different take on the speech from Hegseth and Trump. I was actually encouraged by what I saw. Here, let me explain why. First of all, I'm a military veteran, and I know most veterans out there were disgusted by what they heard and saw. They were sitting there thinking how fucking embarrassing that all of these leaders with 20, 30 plus year careers had to be hauled in to DC to listen to those morons talk. But that was actually encouraging that I felt that way, because I realized and remembered there is no way in hell that all of those people didn't think and feel the exact same way, as evidenced by some of their responses or lack of responses during the speech. Here's the thing that a lot of civilians might not know or understand or appreciate. I remember from my short 10-year stint in the military, how much it was ingrained in our service, the separation of politics and military service. The absence, or at least indoctrinated absence, of race and religion and creed and all of that stuff. It was trained into us to leave your personal biases at the fucking door, that we are all the same. And the only thing that matters is the guy next to you and our oath to the Constitution. I know it sounds corny, but all the way from the top down, it was constantly something that we were told and talked to when there were speeches given, this thing about code and honor and country, right? You don't just erase that shit overnight because some asshat gets elected by a bunch of morons. The military, our military, is stronger than that. So a lot of people might be saying, well, why aren't they doing anything? Well, here's the thing. Unfortunately, nothing that dude has done, I think, really merits a fucking coup by the military. I mean, that is like what you're talking about. What else would they be able to do right now except that? Take back control. You know, the extent of the damage done by this guy is mostly visual and intimidation, even by deploying the military to U.S. cities. The soldiers that are on the ground there, they're just basically following orders and not really committing any crimes. And none of those orders are really unlawful to the degree that we would need some sort of massive intervention, right? Now, I'm not trying to say that soldiers get away with, well, it was just following orders. I'm saying that at this point, they haven't been given any orders that would truly merit them to go up in arms and defy the president of the United States. They hadn't got to that point yet. If it ever got to the point where the orders that the president was giving to them was a clear violation, an aggressive and egregious violation, something that really put U.S. citizens in harm's way, or was a clear dereliction of duty and all of the things that they hold true, I don't think that they would go through with it. Right now, the president's just beating his chest. He's having the military troops walk through the streets for a show of intimidation. And as annoying as that is to the leaders, that they have to do something stupid like that, it isn't enough. Here's my point. At some point in the future, an authoritarian has to take a different kind of control than what he has right now. Right now, it's kind of show and tell. And it's meant to intimidate. But it only intimidates if you let it. The troops on the street marching right now feel like idiots. Are you really intimidated by them? If you are, if you think that the president putting troops on the street is really intimidating, then he's succeeding. But ultimately, I'm not. I think it's fucking stupid. It's horrible that he's going there, and it's clear evidence of what his intentions are. But that's all he can accomplish. Once troops actually are given orders to start violating directly civil rights, making unlawful arrests, things that they can't do, that's when the real test will come. I think that will happen in the future, but we're not there yet.
Our top decorated military leaders being spoken to like fucking children by the convicted fucking felon in chief. These are the best of the best. They're active duty. They've been called off of their fucking posts and positions to come here to be spoken to like fucking children. Our enemies revere these fucking men. They're West Point fucking graduates. They teach our military how to be the best. And you sit here and degrade these people. The silence was deafening. They could leave, but you threatened them with losing their status and their fucking rank. Of course they weren't going to say anything. And they took an oath to the Constitution. And they understand the Constitution because most of them live by it. Most of them have taught by it. And a lot of them have fucking died by it. You know, this meeting could have been accomplished on secure channels by the fucking Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. But we know he don't know how to fucking use secure channels. So they had to bring them all to fucking Quantico. 72 minutes of bullshit about how there won't be any fucking fishing because you're blowing up Venezuelan drug fucking boats.
Okay, Pete, how about fat presidents? How about a president who has been fat every day of his political career? Is that a bad look? All of those generals can button their uniform jackets. All of those admirals can, every one of them. So there's the Secretary of Defense, who may or may not be managing his reported drinking problem, telling all of those commanding officers that they better never look as bad as Donald Trump, who can't even button his suit coat jacket. There was some suspense in the room today when Donald Trump was giving his speech. There was no suspense about would he cross the line that you never cross with the military as president and get political. Everyone knew he was going to do that. Everyone knew that he doesn't know there's a line. Everyone knew he was going to foolishly waste the admirals and generals' time telling them about how many swing states he wanted. And of course he did. The suspense in the room was whether the very, very tired, almost sleepy 79-year-old man at the microphone was going to make it through that 1 hour and 11-minute speech. And there were times in the middle of a sentence that it would seem like he just might drop right there, might not even finish that sentence. And what he seemed to be showing to the generals and the world is that he might not have the physical strength to make it through the 3 years, 3 months, and 20 days left of his presidency. Is that what has given J.D. Vance such a spring in his step lately? Is that why the vice president looks so happy these days?
No one else has shared this take yet, which is really too bad because we should never pass an opportunity to laugh at absurdity. Now, I promised you guys last week I was going to start tracking all of the scary headlines that Trump generated. And at the end of each week, I was going to share back which of those headlines were worthy of our attention and which ended up just being dumb clown shit. And they couldn't even make it to the end of the week. Because when the news came out that Hegseth was calling a surprise meeting for top generals, the ominous breaking news machine ate it up. And it sent the left into an absolute tailspin. World War III was trending on Twitter. People were panicking about Russia and Poland, as if we were all mere days away from being turned into shadows on concrete. Because people read this as a serious headline, without remembering that Pete Hegseth is not a serious leader. Serious leaders were the men and women serving overseas that Pete Hegseth called back so that he could have extras in his audience. In reality, Pete Hegseth is to military leadership what Ron Burgundy is to American journalism. A guy who wants nothing more than to be seen as the movie theater version of a military leader. We know he's got the tumbler and the decanter. He's got the uniform, he's got the no bullshit attitude, and you know he wakes up camera ready. But the one thing he still doesn't have is his Bill Pullman speech moment. So we tried to manufacture it. Spent millions in tax dollars to brilliantly bring all of our senior military leaders to one fixed location, which he of course announced to the world a week ahead of time. All because he wanted an audience of important people for his speech where he complained about diversity, whether maliciously or negligently avoiding the crucial fact that Black, Asian, and Hispanic Americans make up 50% of our volunteer armed forces. Altogether, they only make up 35% of the American public. Put another way, Pete Hegseth attacked diversity in the military at the exact point in time when diversity is maybe more important than ever to the future of the U.S. military. And of course, not to be outdone, as soon as our reality TV president recognized that the weekend weatherman defense secretary was set to deliver a high-profile speech on a well-polished stage, he had to insert himself in the event, delivering a speech that was exactly as coherent as it was planned, where he predictably told them about TV shows he liked as a kid, and openly mused about using actual American cities as live training grounds for soldiers, while pleading with the room full of essential military leaders to lighten up and laugh a bit. And that right there is what I need you to understand. Hegseth delivered his Rambo speech, and Trump dribbled out his reality TV banter, and in every instance, the room remained dead-ass silent. Because what Trump and Hegseth don't understand is this is not a live studio audience. This is serious shit, and these are serious people. People who, and I cannot stress this enough, absolutely despise Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. Because the one thing that serious, calculated leaders will not suffer is unserious fools and frauds.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're a proven, battle-tested professional with like 20 years under your belt, and you're forced to travel 30 hours to listen to a lecture from a guy that's barely qualified to be an assistant manager at TJ Maxx. This is what the room looks like as this pontificating powder puff is up on stage talking about toughness and bravado and no fatties and no chicks allowed. This is my tree house, and I want only the most badass people in here. The rest of you sissies gotta go. The next time he talks about women not being tough enough or brave enough to fight in combat, I would really love for Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth to take off one of those prosthetic legs and beat him upside the fucking head with it. I would love to tell her to kick him in the balls, but clearly he has none. You see, because they were already removed, and they now reside in a pretty delicate little silk pouch that Donald Trump rests on his pillow every night as he sleeps. This is what happens when you take a Neanderthal, Andrew Tate wannabe, and you give him a legitimate big boy job. He starts to think he's a legitimate big boy. And he makes a fucking laughingstock out of himself in front of the bravest, most badass military officials in the entire fucking world. I bet the entire 30 hours that some of them flew home, they fucking laughed their asses off. They were like, really? This is what it's come to. This is all my hard work, all my dedication, all my years of developing and building strength and honor and courage. And it's all brought to a screeching halt by two alpha men who wear more makeup and apply more hairspray than the entire Dallas Cowboys cheerleading squad. What a fucking joke.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. A major in the National Guard and a 5-time draft dodger are telling generals of our military, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, vice admirals of our military, that they need to improve. A draft dodger and a drunk told all of the top senior brass in the United States military that we need to be real war fighters. In that room, just in that room, was more accumulated military knowledge than exists on the planet Earth. And a drunk and a draft dodger basically told them, you got to be more lethal. The guy that they all came there to hear from, their boss, dodged the draft 5 goddamn times. The man who is the head of their department, defense, war, whatever you want to call it, was a major in the National Guard and a Fox News host who cannot stop his drinking. He had the nerve to talk about fat generals. Are you serious right now? Are you absolutely serious right now? MAGA thinks this is fantastic. I'm looking at this like you can't make this up. A drunk and a draft dodger is telling the generals and admirals of our most expensive, most lethal fucking fighting force on the face of the earth that they need to get better. The draft dodger wants to use the accumulated knowledge of the men and women in that room on their civilian friends and family, because his dictator boner has now got up to half staff. An entire room full of generals and admirals were lectured by a major who acts like a frat boy and a draft dodger who's twice the size of any one of them motherfuckers in uniform. Pete Hegseth had the nerve to talk about fat generals, and then Donald Trump rolled his orange roly-poly ass the fuck out there.
DJT walks in the room, it is silent, and he complains about that. He goes ahead to talk about how he walks in the room silently. Dude, you are old. And then he goes ahead to attack, Obama. Simply because he had good knees. He makes up sounds. This is how Obama walks in the room. Turu, 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 pap, pap.
So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da, 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 pop, pop, pop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it.
Strumming my pain with his finger, kept me softly with his song.
This sounds like a cartoon show. This sounds like a grandpa trying to address his grandkids. Dude, you are in the room full of the most admirable people. Not just by Americans, but even the world. Like, tell me a person that don't know nothing about military protocol, military etiquettes, and the way they are supposed to carry themselves, right? Than DJT. Oh, makes a lot of sense. He dodged, drafting. He ran away, right? How the hell is he gonna know? Tell me someone that literally has nothing of sense to say, and then he starts with icebreakers with people like this. Oh my God, that is so aren't they afraid of embarrassing themselves? That was so extremely funny, at the same time so satisfying to watch, that the military is like, did you just bring us over here to talk about da-da-da-da-da-da pop-pop? I'm sorry, that is here. And I think it needs to be a meme. Yeah, it needs to be a meme. So whoever works on memes, that is a good meme, right? And then, I'm sorry guys, I'm crying, but it is because I'm laughing so hard and I can't even help it, right? And then Hegseth or whatever, that Secretary of War and Defense, I don't know. He goes ahead to talk about how, to our enemies, FAFO. And he thought he ate. Dude, do you know that was manufactured and engineered by Democrats, your very enemies? FAFO. And the generals laughed. People laughed because they found it funny. I mean, that is how much they don't take them serious. Yeah? They don't take them serious. So I think it is so nice American people can spot and be like, you know what? Actually, the military is not on the same page with these people. You know how much they were trying to actually sway and just bend them to do what? To literally go against the American people? To say bigoted things? These are people that you got out of their posts. The government is shut down, dude. Do you think this is a joke? And I think that was, again, so nice from the military. The silence said all of it. And I think it is a promise. It is a promise to the American people that we are with you. We see the buffoonery and the cocoonery that is here. We don't even respect them. None of these deserve our respect. Yeah? Imagine someone else getting more applause that is below you than you, who thinks, And I think also the reason as to why they were all talking like this mediocre, because these are mediocre palm-colored people that really don't have so much in life. They have not achieved anything in life. This is like their fantasy world where they get to, kind of feel big and strong. Look at me. I can command all these generals. Yeah. The reason as to why they were speaking mediocrely is because, first of all, they didn't have anything of importance to say. Another thing, they wanted to soften up the atmosphere, and kind of like, these are tactics that these people are taught about. Like, you don't do that. Yeah. And also to kind of, should we say kind of, you know, sway them to their side? Them to be swayed to that mediocrity? Good luck with that. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I think from me for today, that's it. I do love all of you, and I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. And to the military, you guys are doing a great job, okay? People really, really appreciate your service. Yeah. Bye, y'all.